Sometime around the year 2030, the International Rollerdrome Federation prepares for the next Rollerdrome Championship. They have long since consecrated several locales throughout America to serve as arenas, malls, ski resorts, natural formations, traditional stadiums, and more. Within the arenas, competitors must battle against swarms of house players with speed, accuracy, and flair to secure top ranking and proceed to the next bracket. The games will be televised nationally, promising to be bigger, better, and bloodier than ever before. Competitors would come from far and wide to compete for fame, for prizes, for the chance to be more than they could ever dream of being outside of the arena. In the end, whether through elimination or elimination, there would be only one champion left standing. Sometime in the year 80, the Roman Colosseum was finished, a marvel of engineering, and this bad boy would do it all. Martial fights, animal matches, naval battles, straight-up executions, you name it, there was either a limited engagement or permanent fixture of it at the Colosseum. Citizens would come from all over Rome and beyond to spectate and compete, to witness the rise of greatness, to be great themselves, or simply to be a part of the community. Video games and other stories have long taken inspiration from the new wonder of the world, literally and symbolically. Sometimes it asks and answers the simple question, what if the nucleus of whatever mechanical system we've concocted was combat? You can't even wave a stick without hitting countless competition and battle-based gameplay systems. It's the easiest form of conflict to use in this interactive medium. More directly, the Final Fantasy series touts Colosseums as late and post-game challenges against the fiercest of monsters. Kingdom Hearts tests Sora's mettle against swarms of heartless, nobodies, and the sharpest blades of the Heartsverse. Pokémon is defined by squaring up against ever more challenging trainers and gym leaders in the pursuit of being the very best. It works, and if it isn't broken, why fix it? That's the wildest part of all of this, even after all this time. The Colosseum never really broke. Nearly 2 millennia after its construction, the Colosseum still stands. The walls and columns held up as leaders changed, as empires rose and fell, and as centuries came and went. But then, the Colosseum isn't just a place designated by the arena, the stands, or the history. It's a mindset, fueled, in varying forms, by bread and circuses. Now, why would you find yourself at one of these grand gates to the arena? What awaits you on the other end? Perhaps it's the simple drive that has wormed its way into our psyches ever since there was competition to be had. The pursuit of glory. Yes, the chance to walk into the pit to the clamoring of the crowds, to win their hearts, to demonstrate your might and skill, to become more than you could ever be from up in the stands. To have your name known, shouted, deified by those who would only have the courage to watch. Hades has its boss battles against Theseus and the Minotaur held in an underworld arena, its shades cheering and growing to love Zagreus with every new attempt, every victory. Even without the threat of death, victory and triumph still carry glory. But that's just a small part of Zag's escape from the underworld. Rollerdrome puts this dynamic front and center. Why else would Fresh Meat Kara Hassan take out a $340,000 loan for entry fees, if not for the glory of it all? Competitors are made into media darlings, interviewed by the broadcasting elite and publicized on national television. Frontrunners and champions find their faces plastered onto the front of magazines and, more influential than anything, created into toys to sell to children. Is there any greater glory, after all, than being a child's true hero, molding the minds of new generations, immortalized in plastic for all time? Perhaps in being a child and becoming the hero yourself. The Pokémon games vary by the region they take place in and the Pokémon that inhabit them, but they all follow a trainer who seeks, in whatever way fits, to become the best that ever was. Train up your Pokémon, earn gym badges, topple the Elite Four and the Pokémon Champion, maybe even dropkick a criminal syndicate along the way. Pokémon is all about conquest, battle, and the glory that it comes with. Your name and your Pokémon team will always be etched into the Hall of Fame, a testament to your skill and bond for as long as the structure and the data exists. But you run into adult trainers pretty frequently in Pokémon. What if being a child was a prerequisite for this pursuit of glory? In the Hunger Games Pan Am, each of the 12 eligible districts holds a lottery for all children between 12 and 18 years old. If your name is pulled from the Gender's Reaping Bowl, you are selected to compete in the eponymous Hunger Games. This doesn't factor in additional entries for eligible older children, or those who take a year's worth of rations and supplies for a member of their family in exchange for an additional entry each. By design, one male and one female from each district are sent off to the constructed arena. 24 children enter, but only one will leave. But for that single victor, glory unmatched. Your name shouted from the capital and immortalized among the other winners from years past. And plenty of tributes will happily volunteer for the opportunity to seize this glory, or for other reasons. But with victory comes glory, no matter what the rationale. In truth, in history, glory in the Colosseum was fleeting, and its recipients were slaves, condemned criminals, or prisoners of war. Just as soon as a victor would be announced, whether by victory, elimination, or editors, often the Emperor's decree, they would be moving on to something else. The Colosseum was a thing of mechanical wonder, able to adjust its appearance or send animal cages to the surface with shocking efficiency. The people needed entertainment, and any glory gained from a fight was often lost by the next spectacle. In its inception, the Colosseum held 100 days of games in a row. If you were lucky, they'd remember your name just long enough before the start of the next day's spectacle. Nowadays, the Colosseum stands as a relic, a blueprint for everything that was yet to come. Every major American city seems to have at least one landmark arena. Its home teams can come together in competitions of football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and other games against interlopers and invaders. Teams battle each other for victory in the short term and glory in the long term. Reality television changes the shape of the arena, but still pits any number of people against each other in various competitions. Who can beat Bobby Flay or make the most of these mystery ingredients? Who will conquer the island and their opponents to be the ultimate survivor? Sing your heart out so the American masses will vote for you, lest your journey to idolatry be cut short. We crave an ounce of realism in our competition, invest ourselves in these real people in this real competition, all in support of these tributes, these gladiators who battle each other for victory and glory. But then, think of the untelevised competitions. College admission has long been a steep slope for many people to scale. Inequity, ingrained racism, and nepotistic practices don't make the journey any easier for many. Admission alone to a choice university is built on the back of recommendation letters and essays. Applicants are forced to fight against tens or hundreds or thousands of other would-be applicants just to get into the gate. They never see the other people vying for these slots. Admission is its own victory. Colleges and universities pull out all the stoppers to get students interested, get them invested, and then they pick whoever will be the best fit for the institution. You want to go to the best colleges, receive the best education, and all you have to do is be better than everyone else before you even get there. And now anyone can afford college. You just have to take out a loan. Admissions departments might connect with the individual perspectives, but to leadership, it's just a numbers game. A numbers game that will become that much more heated in the years to come. Or even consider the thousands and thousands of content creators on social media, all indirectly fighting one another for what precious time users will devote to the various platforms. How do we reach even more? How do we engage more effectively? How do we have our channel, our brand, our name singled out in a sea of countless others vying for the same? The irony is not lost on me. Glory is nice, but like exposure, it doesn't pay the bills. Perhaps you enter the arena with a more pragmatic approach. You vie for stability. Yes, of course, fame and timelessness are great, but the prize money or a victor's status could make life much easier, wouldn't it? You just have to be the last one standing to claim it. For example, the victors in the Hunger Games are set for life. They receive stable income and a home in the finest part of their district for both them and their family. In the society of Panem, defined by endless labor and production, the opportunity to back away from that life into something more stable can be appealing. Just don't think about what you had to do to get there. Squid Game's premise is simple. Play a series of games with over 400 other people for a growing pot of money, potentially totaling over 45 billion Korean won, about 34 million United States dollars. All participants come from various financial troubles or circumstances: gambling debts, family trapped in North Korea, withheld wages, medical needs, and so on. Victory will arguably set the winner up for life. They can pay for everything they need or are pursuing and still have some left over. But again, victory comes at a high cost. You'll have to watch, be complicit to, or be responsible for hundreds of other people's deaths as they lose the games. But the allure of stability is enough to get people in the door. It's even so powerful that after witnessing the brutality of the games and voting to shut it down, many competitors still returned for their chance at a more stable life. A life that only money can buy. Not much is known about Rollerdrome's setting, though. Aside from the far-reaching hands of the Rollerdrome financier and tech giant Matterhorn, the growing anti-corporate and anti-authoritarian unrest outside of the arenas, and the massive popularity of Rollerdrome itself, we're left to wonder just what the heck is going on out there. But no time for that. You've got to earn your living. With victory can come sponsorships, partnerships, cash prizes, all towards alleviating that $300,000 loan. Kara, however, put up her life insurance policy to front for the loan. If she dies in the games, her payout goes directly to the loan provider. Others will jump into the games because of Rollerdrome's life insurance policy. The house players, the folks trying to beat up Kara and the other Rollerdrome competitors, can provide a pretty solid setup for themselves. 20% pay increases every year, free healthcare and educational opportunities after 3 years of service, and a generous life insurance policy. Now, as the folks who aren't on roller skates, there is high turnover in these positions. You are, after all, being shot at for a living. But at least your loved ones will know financial stability if a competitor bores a hole through your chest. Shift back to our frame of reference. Perhaps the same can be said of athletic pipelines. Recruiting athletes for college, recruiting further into professional leagues, all would-be big leaguers hoping to get endorsements, contracts, stability. Any number of professional athletes have been open about how they started in lower socioeconomic brackets, only to rise to the highest levels because they ball so well. Aiming for the pro leagues can be a tempting pursuit, especially for first-generation college students. But don't think about how structural coercion or status coercion can drag a player down from these opportunities, leaving them in even more compromised positions than when they began. Even something as mundane as trying to get a job. Everything we are doing as applicants is to set ourselves apart from all other applicants. What can we highlight on our resume? What sweet nothing can we whisper into a cover letter? What experiences will be most appealing to a hiring manager? What can we say in an interview that makes us pop? We are constantly set against others for a chance to be noticed, then be favored, then be selected. Or maybe it's all a game, an analytic for someone to gauge interest in a position or industry growth, or to build a pipeline of future applicants. We are indirectly fighting against everyone else who's applied for this position, knowing what this job means, what it can change, whether or not the position is even real. We do all of this. We hope to advance, depriving other applicants of stability so that we can have it for ourselves. We may have our own reasons for walking into the arena, but what about the people who are actually running the games? Why do they put on airs, host the games at all? Maybe it's as simple as entertainment, keeping people happy. Complacency and subversion are as powerful a tool for any of the editors and game masters. Do your part, citizen. Let the masses have something else to look at rather than our crumbling infrastructure, our imploding housing crisis, the ever-growing wealth inequality. The cracks in the system we see is designed to break us. The victors in the Hunger Games may get fame and stability, but their lives now exist under the thumb of the capital. They live under heavy surveillance for the rest of their lives to ensure their lives keep in line with the capital's views. Their primary duty from then on is to train and mentor future tributes. The ultimate service to their community, according to the games, is to churn out more victors, to serve the games. There have long been coliseums in the Final Fantasy series, but join me in the slums of the Wall Market. The entire region is designed as a subversion, a place to let go of your inhibitions and set yourself free and indulge your wildest fantasies. Grandest of all, the Corneo Coliseum attracts its citizens to witness fantastic battles and vicious blood sport. Prize money and glory may await the victors, but that is clearly not the point of the arena. The living conditions in the Midgar slums where Wall Market exists ride the margin between not great and abysmal. But the bright lights and the thrill of the fight, the dream of someday having the power that the leaders of these squalid sectors wield, that's enough to keep you going. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice Don Corneo is always willing to make. The Rollerdrome Championship, likewise, is designed to keep people from concerning themselves with the outside. They keep eyes off of both Matterhorn's paramilitary partnerships and the goings-on of the New Action Army, a protest group standing against Matterhorn's dealings and conglomerating. One of the Rollerdrome frontrunners and Matterhorn's personal bid for victory, Casper Essex, specifically goes on the record to say that there's no room for politics in his life. Matterhorn wants to keep the game separate from the goings-on outside, and Casper is the perfect wedge to widen that gap. The arenas, likewise, are designed around the spectacle. Perform sick tricks, and the Rollerdrome officers will be able to reload competitors' weapons via matter transference. If competitors don't perform, they can't reload, they can't defeat the house players, and they can't win. Combo boosting and trick emblems are littered throughout each arena, encouraging death-defying feats and momentum-based action. The emblems, we learn, are so positioned to provide ideal angles for press and photographers to capture the moment. Manufactured thrills for optimal consumption. Never mind the bloodshed, the acid burns, the mechanized tanks, and the imperative to maim and kill anything that isn't on quote-unquote your side. If it bleeds, it leads. And Rollerdrome always has more meat for the grinder. But when complacency is tied to people, when community comes into play, it can be made to feel less malicious. The Hunger Games tributes are paraded around in chariots and interviews, put into the finest attire to reflect and symbolize their home districts, tying it all back to their origins, their communities. And should they win the games, not only will the capital send increased food resources to their district, but they are to spread their wisdom and counsel to future tributes. Through their heavily surveilled guidance, the victors will reflect the ideal community back at the collective for the rest of their days. With something as widely televised as the Rollerdrome Championship, you don't just ignore it. You share the games with your household, you watch the press releases, you buy your children toys, you cheer from the stands. You are connected to your community through the competition. It's like the Super Bowl or other major championship events. It is part of the cultural zeitgeist. You are, in some part, defined by it. Who you support, how you consume it, the fact that you don't care for it, or even that you stand against it, morally, politically, or personally. Complacency, subversion, and community all form the backbone of reality. The Colosseum was commissioned by the Emperor Vespasian after a period of Roman civil war and upheaval. Its construction was a long-term, long-game effort to win over and unite the disparate voters through distraction and entertainment. Though Vespasian died before the Colosseum's completion, the political move worked. Who, after all, could hate the guy or the office that wanted to set up this sick amphitheater for everyone, from the loftiest senator to the most common of the commoners? Battle reenactments and gladiator battles served as true old-school propaganda, bolstering the Roman spirit as their empire grew wider and vaster. The Colosseum was the ultimate unifier in a fractured Roman Empire, a distraction, no matter how thin the army and resources were spread across its reach. Fast forward to us. We live in an era of unmatched information accessibility and are watching in real time as it is quashed or questioned or delegitimized. An aware populace, after all, is a dangerous populace to those making the most out of its broken machinery. In the last many years, we've rallied around reality programming and competition, cheering for contestants, locations, or different colored jerseys as part of our personality. We inundate ourselves with endless short-form entertainment, tacking into communities that an algorithm has placed us in, or use it to spike our dopamine receptors for just a moment as we grow more and more aware of everything going on outside, everything we can't control. We witness the circuses that our own election cycles have become, spectacle over substance, retweetable quotes, and memeified behavior, all attempts to trivialize their actions, their decisions, the fact that geriatric, homogenous old fools on all sides are running the show. How it's all shown to us is designed to keep our collective eyes off of the cracks in the facade. But you won't see those cracks if we serve you cake in front of it. You won't care about the collapsing infrastructure if we give you something more entertaining to look at. If you play the short game well enough, everyone forgets to keep playing the long game. But maybe too many people try to point out the cracks in the structure. They won't be distracted, and so they must be made to be silent. Maybe it's all a threat, an attempt at quelling any thought of stepping out of line. You don't want to be the one thrown into the pit, do you? It's a death sentence. Look what can happen to you if you step out of line. So get back in line. After the first rebellion in the Hunger Games, the victorious capital put forth the Treaty of Treason, stipulating the existence of the Hunger Games to instill a grim reminder of the districts never repeating their past mistakes. Communication between the districts was almost entirely cut. By pitting their own citizens against one another, the capital made the districts hate each other, rather than allow them to refocus their ire on the capital, who enforces the games. The clandestine District 13 serves as a cruel reminder of the cost of avoiding the pit. By removing themselves from the equation under the threat of mutually assured destruction with the capital, they saved their district from defeat. In doing so, they condemned the other 12 districts to both loss in the rebellion and, subsequently, their forced participation in the Hunger Games. Future rebellion was all but quashed. Iron Lung takes place in the blood ocean of Moon AT5. Players control a convicted criminal who has been welded into a deep-sea submersible, the eponymous Iron Lung, to take deep-water photographs in exchange for their freedom. But through some sleuthing aboard the vessel, players learn that the Iron Lung is designed as a burner sub, not intended for operator survival. This is not an expedition, you learn. It is an execution. Human society has waned drastically following the mysterious disappearance of habitable planets and all stars in the sky. When your entire population is limited to those on space stations and other starships, you can't feign ignorance when every conviction realization expedition ends up with one fewer convict in the populace. It is the ultimate dissuasion from stepping out of line. Not a matter of if you'll go on an expedition, but when. Rollerdrome uses one of the most understated methods of quelling: dehumanization. Look at the house players. Functionally, they all look identical. No identifiers, no numbers on their uniforms, no names. They're just there to be shot. You can barely see their eyes around heavy facewear. Even the competitors, while permitted certain degrees of flair in their outfit, must remain in line with IRF standards. No religious iconography, no political symbols, no commercial or charity insignias, nothing to define you or what you stand for. You're not there to stand for anything. You're there to do sick flips, cool tricks, and shoot bullets at everyone else. Don't see the people in the pit. But that doesn't stop competitors from standing for something. A number of them are concerned with Matterhorn's encroaching grip outside of the arenas and take a stand with the New Action Army, using their fame and leverage to call for change and awareness. Low-grade competitors run the risk of being disqualified from the competition, but high-level champions like Morgan Frey, you can't remove them from the equation that way, but you can still remove them. Competitors know this. They're not in control of the games. Don't scrutinize policy. All of this, it seems, is in Matterhorn's efforts to quell outside of the games too. By using the Rollerdrome Championship as essentially a weapons testing lab, they seek to more effectively arm their privatized police force with weapons to quash down on anyone coming after their monopoly. Anyone like the New Action Army. Ice beams, teleportation tech, acid spraying jetpacks, exploding riot shields, pilotable mechs, and the massive city-block dwarfing spider tank are all intimidating to a well-armed, highly mobile Rollerdrome competitor. But with enough iteration, enough combat data, enough tweaking, they could crush any demonstration, protest, or rebellion before it even got off the ground. But you wouldn't rebel, would you? You're too busy watching the Rollerdrome Championship. Don't look away. Be entertained. The Roman Colosseum stood for hundreds of years as a hub of execution. The deaths of criminals, whether by sword or claw, was part of the itinerary. It was expected, exciting. You didn't want to chance an unfair fight against an apex predator or an opponent who is magnitudes more skilled than you. To defy Rome is to court death. To defy Rome is to have already lost your fight. To not align with Rome, with its views, its politics, its glorious constructors of this grand arena, is to fall within its walls, your blood sticking to the sand for only a moment before you are shuffled off to make way for the next event. To defy Rome is to be forgotten. So, obviously, you don't defy Rome. Simple. Easy. Recall earlier the participants in gladiator battles. They were not great Roman warriors or soldiers. They were enslaved peoples, condemned criminals, prisoners of war. While our parallels may be less outwardly gruesome, we walk similar paths to those who were forced to fight before, born into a system that demands we give everything in our lives to it, a system that refuses to support so many of us, a system that punishes us for making it support us. We work until we die. We are not guaranteed basic needs. If we step out of line, we are locked away and forgotten about. The enslaved, the condemned, the imprisoned, all still fighting battle after battle in an arena whose walls are beyond our sight, for a crowd that will never be satisfied. Gladiatorial combat was outlawed in Rome about 300 years after the Colosseum's construction. Social acceptability changed the parameters of the games, but we're all still playing. Everything we do has devolved into rat races and contests against complete strangers. Colleges force applicants to fight each other for not a guarantee, but a chance at rising to their potential, even as the higher education enrollment cliff looms startlingly close. Broadcasting giants and sports federations pit athletes against each other while profiting on their backs, on the backs of the disenfranchised who want a shot at the big leagues, who dream of becoming more than they know. Producers create drama and conflict between reality competitors, twisting the nature of competition for the sake of views, engagement, and advertising potential. It's all just artificial conflict, created by bureaucrats and boards of trustees, producers and provosts, executives and emperors, who have never had to, or worse, who have forgotten what it is like to fight for their survival. And it all begs the question, for as much as conflict and strife drives and dictates our lives, when the gates open and we face each other in this arena, who should we be fighting? And I know that it all seems bad, hopeless, inescapable, but that's by design. You can't see the city past the walls of the arena, just like you can't see the sun from inside your office. Take comfort. A system designed around conflict cannot last forever. You cannot build a sustainable backbone on competition, cruelty, and spectacle. The short game is profitable for the editors just as it is painful and terrible for all of us who fight, yes, but everyone has their breaking point, individually and collectively. The long game, in the end, is their downfall. The Hunger Games are stopped. Rome collapses. Something better, more equitable, more peaceful can be built upon the ashes of conflict. Kara Hassan, the triumphant Rollerdrome underdog, may cozy up to the Matterhorn executives, able to examine the structure of the beast from the inside. All the easier to take it down from within. Or maybe she tosses them aside, using her newfound influence and fame to enact change, as her predecessor and fellow competitors did. They can try to kill her in the next championship, but that's a year away. No matter what Kara chooses, the new Action Army continues to stand against the conglomerate, shaking the foundation of the game that defines Matterhorn and the society that is defined by Rollerdrome, piece by piece. Awareness grows. Dissent roils. The walls are shaken. When you truly see the cracks in the facade, in the structure itself, you wonder how deep into the foundation they go. And it all starts with little victories. Sand taken from the arena and sprinkled into the gears.